for joining us this evening. We're talking Expo 2012, and earlier on in the program, I designated the OPSR a public institution, but it's actually the Office of Private Sector Relations. So we'll not make that mistake in the future. It's the Office of Private Sector Relations. That's something that I know only too well. We have with us on set right now Ms. Jacqueline Emmanuel. She is the director of the OPSR, and we have Dr. Owen Gabriel. He is the medical director at the Oncology Center here on St. Lucia. And we're talking about goods and services. You made a very good point that in the past we did not consider services as an export. We look at the business awards recently, and the leading exporter was fixed deals in financial services. And whereas people may not have immediately understood why, it's because of what you described earlier as far as exporting the service. So I mean, that's something that has broadened our imaginations, and looking into services as we grow our economy as a nation. Now, you're making a point about goods and services when we went to break.
Yes, I'm very happy about the point you just made, because one of the things you really want to highlight in Expo 2012 is the embrace of goods and services. I give a little history of how OPSR began way back in 1997, but you will realize how much the world has changed, and the number of international trade agreements that we ourselves have signed on to. And it has really changed the arena. The whole pattern has shifted with regards to services. We are, even within the context of CARICOM single market, we now have labor mobility to an extensive degree. And in the information age, people can actually sell services without even leaving the country.
Right.
The whole environment has changed right now, and we have signed on to deals that if we're going to receive the benefits from some of these agreements, we're definitely going to have to push our services. Cultural industries, it's a much more integrated world. The financial sector has been integrated internationally. So the new standards that have been set for accreditation, even for goods, that it has made the whole world environment one that is much easier now to trade, both in goods and in services. And we in St. Lucia, one of our primary assets are people. We spend quite a lot of our resources in training our people, and we're going to have to use our people, wherever we can. And it's really surprising. I hope people will have a chance to really interact with some of the persons who are exhibiting, like the Oncology Center, because you realize that they employ persons of a very high level of education. They invest significantly, and in terms of investment level, they are on par with many of these other kinds of investors in the goods sector. At the same time, you do have the goods sector itself is also quite exciting today, with technology, the advancement in technology, and transportation. So we've also seen a number of innovations that take place in the goods sector. So I think Expo 2012 is really a platform for us to get a good understanding of where we are, and what our potential is as a country.
Now, Dr. Gabriel, are you a bit disappointed, though, that it has taken St. Lucia so long to realize that we have goods and services of a high enough standard that we can export them? Ms. Emmanuel alluded to earlier on, the fact that we had a framework in place way back, but there's so many countries that went before us because we just were stuck there pretty much. She didn't say it in these words, but we were just stuck in that position and we were not moving.
Well, she also mentioned that St. Lucia was at the forefront of implementing some private sector development strategy as well. So we think much of these things take time, and it really is about the resolve of the government, about the resolve of offices with the mandate of the OPSR, and our own people, our own investors, and our own clients, so that we can move forward and just make this happen. And this is more important and relevant now in this global economic climate, that even the strongest economies, or the so-called strong economies, are wobbling under the impact of this thing that's happening. So I think we're well on our way acknowledging this fact. We're well on our way to making the gains that we will make. They'll be small gains, but it's a start, and it's the start in the right direction. And Expo 2012 gives us that opportunity to make our own clients in St. Lucia aware of what we're able to offer. And we already offer this to overseas clients. And I think it's an important thing to do, to have that kind of sensitization of both our, the people who consume our products, as well as other persons that we collaborate with who may come from overseas and so on, and try to establish networking and links even among ourselves. It's important for us to learn to trade among ourselves, so that persons who have specialized in a particular field may find a way to exchange their services, with their clients, especially, for instance, in the medical field. As I said earlier on, you may have a tendency for true specialization, whether it is in family medicine, whether it is in cardiology, oncology, orthopedics, and so on, so that people are able to identify a particular group, a particular sector or center that will deliver that particular service that they're looking into.
Now, you made a good point that it's a start. And in the past, you've seen programs or campaigns that have, come on stream. I remember some time ago, many years ago, in fact, you had the Buy Local campaign. But then, right now you hear nothing about it, and that has died out. What measures are being taken and what mechanisms are being put in place to ensure that this is sustainable, that we can continue to promote our goods and services and export them to the Caribbean and even further?
Well, one of the things that has been done, and I think, is the institutional arrangement that has been put in place for the first time, that it established a trade export promotion agency for St. Lucia. That, I think, has really been one of the most sticky points why this export strategy has not been implemented. And for the first time, we have that. Some countries in the region have had theirs, it seemed like for eons, the JAM Pros and so on. But we've never had an institution that had that primary responsibility to do so. And I think this is what the government has now put in place. I think, too, one of the reasons we put on Expo 2012, having taken hold of this mandate, is that we recognize it has to be a national effort. Export promotion is not going to be just one institution's business. I think Dr. Gabriel mentioned very clearly that it takes the exporters themselves have to understand. And I think one of the things that Expo 2012 has done for us is allow us to congregate, so to speak, in one place and take a good look at ourselves. We can see where we are. We can see how, export promotion requires a lot of skills, merchandising skills. Some people have a very good product, a very good service, but how do they showcase that service? How do they promote that service? How do they, And so just Expo 2012 gives us a chance just to come to base level. This is where we are, both in goods and services as an exporting nation. It takes, I can say, a national effort. It has to be something that we must be committed to for the long run. And I think that's what we're trying to establish. The consumers have a part to play. St. Lucians have a part to play in promoting goods and services overseas. I got somebody told me a story years ago that always stayed with me. That she was in Japan, in Germany, at a national monument, and she saw a tourist came up, was taking pictures with a Japanese-made camera, and there's another Japanese tourist at the same location, and walks up to this visitor and said, "I see you're using a Japanese camera. Thank you for buying a Japanese product." That stayed with me.
That's interesting, yes.
Very
powerful.
Exactly. You must be proud of your own. The exporters need our base. They need our support. And many exporters will tell you that's the platform in which they shoot off to the world. And that's the message we want Expo 2012 to tell.
I think Clinton, if I may be allowed, I think even the demands of our existence in this time, in this economic climate, is the impetus that will take us further and that which will sustain us. For a business person to be successful in his field, he must meet the standards that are demanded by our clients. And if not, you just fade away. So beyond having the institutionalization of OPSR and its mandate, I think that the very fact that we are forced to grow, to think outside of the box, to develop new strategies that probably we took for granted before. These are the things that will keep us focused and keep us going, and to achieve these things that previously we just thought it will do. That this market that we're dealing with is our sustained market. We must go beyond that, because the economic climate demands these things of us, that we must go beyond. And we are challenged sometimes, and the obstacles are huge sometimes. But we are faced with these things, and maybe if we come together, and this can be a platform for us to come together, when we see the common characteristics among ourselves, that we can probably network, we can probably group ourselves, and then we can take it further than it is now.
Because, I mean, the world has shrunk so drastically or significantly since technology took over. I mean, information that you had to dig up now is just available at a click of a mouse. And that is how the world has moved. But talking about that, there are some challenges that will present themselves as a result of the world shrinking and you going out there, because I'm sure that even though you're providing a service, even though you're in the medical field, it's still a business. You still have to make money, you still have to survive, you still have to compete. And you're not right now not only competing locally and regionally, you're competing internationally. So when we come back, we'll discuss that a little bit more, how you fit into that global environment and how you can compete with the big sharks out there. Stay with us. You're watching Newsmaker Live. We'll be back with Jacqueline Albertini and Jacqueline Emmanuel and Dr. Owen Gabriel right after this.